everybody.
Can you hear us? All right.
Nice to see tons of people out here today.
Yes. So real quickly, who here is thinking about doing a crowdfund?
Somebody out there? Cool.
How many people have backed a crowdfunding campaign? Well, that's a lot better number of hands. How many people would never back a crowdfunding campaign? It's a perfectly valid choice. You don't have to be worried about raising your hand. We're not going to throw things at you. Very cool. So we're going to get started, and we'll start with introducing ourselves.
Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Wingman Peterson. Apparently some people have seen my show on YouTube. I've backed a few projects and started a few. I've had a couple successes with Star Citizen, and we are currently doing Descent Underground, started 4 days ago. I think we're about to, If you haven't backed, please do so. If you don't want to, share it at least with your friends.
Exactly. My name is Gordon Walton. I'm your gratuitous old game guy. I've been making games for a really long time. Like a really long time, probably longer than most of you have been alive. We're currently more than halfway through a campaign for a game called Crowfall. And yay! Okay, thank you. And we're here to share what we've learned doing that, both of us.
Yeah.
All right?
Both of them are still active.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's still time.
Yes, there's still time for something. All right. So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the beginning, the middle, the end, all of it, and try to run through that as pretty quickly. We're going to have a Q&A. I don't know if they have mics for you guys, but if you yell the question really loud to us, we'll say it back and then answer it, because we really want to, frankly, hear from you. We wouldn't be in the crowdfunding business if we didn't care about the crowd.
No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, that's completely the way to do crowdfunding, too. So one of the first things you need to do when you're going to do a crowdfund, you got to realize that you've got to bring the crowd. You've got to. Are you skipping ahead just like that? You're just jumping ahead, so you're.
I just jumped ahead on you, yeah.
Yeah, you just jumped ahead.
I'm a bad person.
No, it's okay. So you still need to go out there and bring the crowd. And so a lot of mistakes people make are going out there thinking that Kickstarter is more of or Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or any of the crowdfund, Patreon. That they're like an audience or a television show, and people are going there for.
Exactly.
And they're not. So mostly what happens is you want to go out and generate the crowd yourself before you go up to give yourself a chance of success. Now, at Star Citizen, Chris did it with a nice countdown. We did it there, and we crashed the website. But Gordon and myself, as long as we've been in the industry, I guess we're not Chris Roberts.
No, we're not.
No, we're not. And so
no one else is Chris Roberts.
No, that is so true. You can either be a rock star like him or Richard or some of the other guys, or you can be good industry veterans that have been involved with really, really good products like Gordon and I have for a long time, and go out there with some credibility and try to build your audience. Yep.
So and two ways to build an audience, right? One is get an existing IP, helps a lot. Doing a new IP, you really have to go and, if you can, steal an audience. Which means that you need to find some disgruntled people, who love a particular thing, but it's not being done right. So you better find disgruntled people and steal them away from wherever they are currently disgruntled.
Isn't that how all religions got started to begin with at one point?
Something like that, but I don't know that we want to go there. Really.
Right. No.
I'm going to back up, though, because even before you start thinking about getting a crowd, you better do your research.
100%.
You better go look at what's worked, look at what hasn't worked, try to draw some good conclusions from it. Even if you can, talk to the creators. The creators are mostly pretty accessible to talk to. So you could actually ask them, like, okay, you succeeded, but what would you not do again the same way that you learned from what you did the first time around?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people look at Kickstarter and they find the funny ones, like the potato salad guy, and think, oh, that's it. There's nothing to be learned from the potato salad guy other than that was really funny.
Yeah.
But there is a lot to be learned from Crowfall, for instance, from Star Citizen, from Kickstarters that have been really, really good. The Laser Kitties recently was good. That guy had 3 million followers on Facebook before he even went to Kickstarter.
He had an audience.
Yeah, completely. And he was dedicated, and he was also dedicated to communicating with that audience and being part of it. Because at the end of the day, if the thing behind crowdfunded games is it's building it together. You want to keep the audience engaged. I mean, the irony of this situation, Gordon, is that publishers have sort of set this whole thing up for us.
No. They're doing a great job for us.
I know, it's been great.
It's awesome.
Because you could go into GameSpot or, any of those places and go, I want to pre-order this game. And so the audiences over the last 10, 15 years has gotten used to pre-ordering and waiting for games.
See, I thought they were doing a good job for us because you can go in a game store, buy a game, and be disappointed.
Yeah, well, that's true, too.
Okay.
So they're doing double work for us.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome because, their job is to really select only the stuff that should come to market.
Right.
And, they're not always doing the best job at doing that.
No, they're not being innovative. They're being, sequel-oriented, and they're really risk-averse. And it's funny because the game industry has sort of mirrored the movie industry in a sense that you had the rise of the big studios, and then that actually opened up a gateway for independent films. And that is really what we're about.
Yeah, indie.
Yeah.
So, also, you need to partner with these other crowdfunders. So, yeah. So, the neat thing about the crowdfunding kind of people who are crowdfunding, they're actually pretty open to sharing audience, to sharing ideas, to sharing their experience. We tried to talk to every one of the top 20 game crowdfunders and got to talk to probably of the top 20, 15 of those guys were incredibly open. They looked at our Kickstarter before it went. They gave us lots of feedback. They said, "Oh, that's totally stupid. You shouldn't do it that way." And some of that feedback was good, and some of it wasn't. But it was definitely worth hearing, whether it was good or not.
Well, yeah, it's like anything. The harder work you put in at the beginning, the better it's going to be at the end. So if you put enough effort in there into studying and going and looking at what works,
yeah,
you can, you don't go study the guys, on the street begging. You go to Bill Gates and see what he did.
Yeah, well, there's something to be learned from the people who failed too.
Well, you can't be
negative lessons.
Can't be afraid to fail. I mean, because some of them aren't going to work.
Yep. So that's really important, and it's not like it's just an old boys club because Eric and I happen to know each other.
And because we're old.
Well, yeah, that's true. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We
used to live like two houses down from each other.
I know. It's very disturbing.
I know.
In a whole bunch of ways.
Yeah.
So now you're still in the pre-phase. You haven't gone out yet. You really, really have to figure out what you are and what you aren't, because both of those define who your audience is going to be.
Right. You've got to figure out what's your messaging going to be, and is it going to resonate? Gordon was talking about finding a disgruntled group or a group that's been overlooked. In our case, Descent has been languishing for 16 years on Interplay shelves, and so people have been crying out for another one. It's just been started and stopped and started and stopped forever. And so we were like, there's a group of people out there. And by the way, it's not just the people that our age that played it, but I've got two sons here that are 16 and 12, and they've also never had the chance to experience that kind of game. So you want to somehow tap into them as well. So you've got to find the disgruntled base, and you have to find maybe a modicum of something that is unique, so that you can then message that to new audience and old audience.
And a lot of developers are not really into the whole marketing thing.
No.
But you've got to be able to get the message across quick. You can't explain a complex game, and we're the most guilty of this, by the way. We have a very complex, unusual game, and so it takes too long to explain it, frankly. There was no way to shortcut that in our case. I'm sure there's a way to shortcut it more than we did, but it's just really challenging sometimes to get your message across.
Yeah, but I think you did a really good job. I think that people looked at y'all's stuff and said, yeah, that's really cool. And plus let's be honest, what also helps Kickstarters is it pretty? And you guys have a really, really beautiful art style, and it looks great. So, yeah.
Well, and credibility helps too. If you have, and it's not just about having a big name in the industry. It's about showing work that you've done before.
That doesn't hurt.
No, it doesn't hurt at all.
No, that actually helps crowdfunding. So is any big names? Are there any big names here? All right, good. Thank God for that.
There you go.
Right there.
A big man with a big name. There you go. But nonetheless, if you look at Kickstarter, the funny thing is, we look at the giant games who, do $1 million or more or whatever.
Yeah.
But the truth is, the majority of the money comes from games that are well under 100,000. So a lot of people are out there funding their dreams on Kickstarter to build a particular game. So don't let this, people like us scare you away.
No.
Because there's plenty of room for people to get stuff
And
done.
don't be afraid to reach out to the larger Kickstarters too for help with your indie campaign. I mean, just yesterday we put a shout out to one of our guys that's backed us, said that he's got a kind of a 3D breakout game on Steam. He wanted help getting greenlit, so we gave him a shout out. You know, we want to support you. You guys are supporting us. We want to support you. That's what this thing's about.
Yeah, I think though that for us, the shout outs have either been people that we already knew.
Yeah.
Or people that we had some kind of relationship with, or people who were doing something close enough to our game that it was credible to our customers.
Right.
Because I can't do the Pebble Watch thing to my customers without getting yelled at by them. They're going to go, "What in the hell are you pimping that stuff for? What's in this for us?"
Yeah, but you would do the exploding kittens, I bet.
No, I would not do that.
No, that's
No, I would not do that.
I would do that.
So if you're looking out there and you're the Exploding Kittens guy.
All right, now we're moved to the fun part. It's launch day.
Oh,
It's time to launch the campaign. Oh my God. Actually, if you go out and do your research, you'll find out that the stats say you're more likely to be successful if you launch on a Tuesday than any other day.
Right.
So there's all these people out there doing stats on Kickstarters and Indiegogos, and they run the numbers a million different ways. And it turns out that if you launch on Tuesday, you're slightly more likely to succeed than any other day.
Well, that has to do with
Which
the
is
news
weird.
cycle. Yeah, well, sort of. It has to do with the news cycle in a sense that
The weekend, the Friday's the update for what happened during the week. Then you have the weekend, and Monday is generally news cycle oriented on what happened over the weekend. So you don't want to be buried in the news. You want to own the news. And you have a better chance of owning that news or having more coverage to bring more people and clicks to your Kickstarter if you launch
You're
on
thinking
Tuesday.
PR, but it's also people's busy cycle.
well, no doubt about
They're
it.
too busy
Monday
on
they're
Mondays.
Well, fair enough. That's true too.
Yeah. And you can do all kinds of things on your launch day, but to me, the number one thing that you do, make sure you're working your plan, and secondly, email everybody you know a personal plea to back you.
100%.
Even if it's just for $1. Because how does Kickstarter work and all these other guys? If you're trending, meaning that you're getting people to pledge, even $1, they look at numbers more than they look at dollars.
That's right.
So you're more likely to suddenly get featured on the platform if they say, hey, these guys started today, and look at it, the numbers are rocketing up, people are
Well, nothing
people are
attracts a
pledging.
crowd like a crowd.
Right. So momentum begets momentum.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you really need to find everybody you ever know who owes you anything and say, you have to spend $1 on me today.
Right.
Period. Not tomorrow, today.
And if,
now.
and if you don't want to spend, at least share. At least share the
at
link.
least share it on your
hit your
social
contacts,
media.
Facebook, whatever.
Yep. And if you have some people who will really give you a bunch of money, one, you got to line them up and get them to also pledge the very first day.
That's true.
And you got to torture them until they do.
Yeah.
So that's the remind them part. You just torture them until they actually pay. And now you're in the middle of the campaign,
Yep.
and you got to live with your community, and they are vocal,
Fervent.
fervent. Okay,
Fervent.
Maybe that sounds better than vocal.
Yeah, well, it's funny because we're earlier than they are in their campaign,
And you got to be aware that you're going to make some mistakes, and you've got to be agile enough to correct those as soon as possible. And I can give a fair example. We left out a little bit of the single player on our campaign, not because we were doing a small one at the beginning of our Kickstarter to get to the large campaign later, single player. And so you watch and you track the number one thing that people are asking about, and you make dang sure that you're going to get there and address that, especially if you've already got a plan for it. You got to raise your hand, mea culpa. Don't be afraid to say, hey, that's our bad. We'll put it up there. Here's what we're doing, because people want to know that there are people reacting behind them, that they're not just backing a project. And I actually think that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is that they think Kickstarter is look what I'm doing, when it's not. It is a look what we're doing. Kickstarter is a community. It's a church campfire. It's literally everybody in one group cheering and rooting for others.
there are people out there that have backed 80, 90 projects.
Yep.
And that's important because Gordon and I have been through how many green lights, man, where you just, you go to publishers.
I don't want to count.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Here, you've got people that have a voice, and it's more important now you can have a vote. You can tell people, I want that game. And, you know, that way you don't have 5 guys or 5 girls.
I'm not backing you because.
Yeah, right. Well,
whatever.
Right. And then that's, you know, that's a good point. I'm not backing you. And they will spend $1 to tell you that. They will. Yeah. They'll put $1 in just to say, I think you suck, you know, or whatever. And then hopefully you engage them and say, look, you know, here's what we're doing. Here's what's going on. We appreciate that. And usually you'd be surprised by how a little personal interaction and show that you're caring, that you're you're a human being, and that you're not just out there for, you know, to grab their money. That goes a long way.
Well, so many people, when they interact with any company, you know, pretty much get a faceless, you know, nobody talking to them. You know, it's a machine. Yeah. It's not real people. And the other thing, but I agree with most of what you said, but I think you have to stay true to what you are.
100%. You've got to have your message.
So you may add something, but it better be on target with what you're already making.
I wasn't saying add. I was saying be able to, if you left something out. Like we were holding back
as a special announcement in the middle of the campaign, and that was a mistake on our part.
Yep. And always reminding them we're the underdog.
Yeah, exactly.
Really important.
And we're Rage Against the Machine.
Yep. So. Other craziness. So in the first 3 days, 4 days of the campaign are insane.
I'm still there.
I'm normally a person who I get typically on a normal day I get 300 to 500 emails a day that I have to read and answer. And on a Kickstarter day, I'm getting 1,000.
It's crazy.
Which means I'm not getting them all done. And so I think that it's really, really intense. It's as intense as any product launch I've ever done.
Yeah, you just got to be willing to realize that for the next 30 days or so that
everything you do is dedicated to that campaign and to being part of that with the community.
And in the beginning, you have great momentum, lots
100%.
of people pledging, and then if you look at kick tracks in particular, you'll see there's like this big U curve. In the beginning, there's a whole bunch of people pledging. In the end, there's a whole bunch of people pledging. In the middle, almost nobody. It's like dead. It's like a dead zone. And believe me, psychologically, even if you're ready for that, it's very depressing.
Yeah, we talked about that, and it's still, you know, like it's scary.
Yeah, but you know, it's a pattern, and so you have to realize that, you know, it's normal. And in fact, your backers sometimes get all upset. I was answering an email today. Oh, we're not going to make it. It's, you know, we're not going to make the next stretch goal. It's horrible. Look at our trend. No. Go look at what the trends really are. Yes, it's just slow right now. It's going to be slow right now unless we get lucky somehow.
Yeah, but you're out there talking to them, and I think that's important. They're still feeling part of it. Yeah. They're obviously engaged, you know. So, and that's another thing you can do is you want them to be motivated to be out there helping you because, you know, it's an army of folks out there pitching your cause.
Yeah, and the main thing is you are reacting. You are trying to figure out, how can I work this to make it work better? How can I help help people share the word about the project? How can I, what can I say or what can we do with our stretch goals or reward levels to make people happier?
Well, yeah, it's what Sun Tzu said. Every battle plan survives until first contact. Right?
Yeah. So we've had first contact, and now it's a matter of, you know, you have your plan. We generally have a whole 30-day campaign, but we try to stick to a 3 to 5 day window and to leave ourselves points in time to react to important bits, because you guys have been on the interwebs invented by Al Gore, and so you guys know that sometimes an idea can, even if it's incorrect, could just run rampant. So you've got to be agile enough to be able to react to that, say no, this is what we're doing, it's cool, this is what's happening, and people are generally like, oh, because the internet's crazy. You can never read the connotation of what somebody says when they type it in. It can come across really harshly, and they're really just asking a question. So you've got to be ready to answer those in a very calm manner and keep the flow going, keep the positive vibe.
Yep. So then the campaign will end. One day the campaign will end, and you know, I think the main thing to not forget is always celebrate with the audience.
100%.
Right? Because everybody did it together. It wasn't the company who did it. It was frankly the crowd that did it, that did the work to make it happen.
That's right.
And eventually you've got to transition people off of Kickstarter unless you're doing a simple Kickstarter. You know, if you were just, I'm selling some kind of item, you could probably do it all on Kickstarter. But if you're not, if you're doing a service, a longer-term service, you pretty much have to transition people. And that's always challenging because a lot of people won't transition. They
No.
just wait.
And you've got to bring them to your audience. I mean, you've got to bring your audience, to your website. So if you're going to forever fund, or if you're done with the Kickstarter, you still got to transition all those people across. And you've got to make sure there's going to be some issues between, on Star Citizen, we had a lot of issues with people that had pledged on Kickstarter and weren't coming across fast enough. So we kept having to email them and, make sure that they were getting there. And I think it took a good year before we got, to the 90% range over. And that's going to happen. You've just got to be patient and do your due diligence and be diligent about it, rather. And I think you'll get there.
Yep. But you'll still be communicating on Kickstarter because you're obligated to, no matter what. And you should keep on crowdfunding, frankly, because a bunch of people will show up on day 31 or day 61 or day 91 and go, wait, I missed my chance. I really want to be part of this.
And you've got to give Chris Roberts credit for that. That was kind of his invention. And when we were first starting it, he was like, no, we're going to forever fund. We're going to turn this to e-commerce. I'm like, really, man? That's never been done before. Are you sure? And my God, he was right. Because if you're making it, as Gordon just said, if you've got 30, 31 days to capture the audience, somebody could be on vacation. Somebody could be just hearing about it. It's like that commercial. I don't know how old you are, but where you tell two friends and so on and so on and so on. Well, maybe 30 days down the road, somebody's going to tell, and exponentially at 1,600 people, they don't hear about it until 31. So if you're not there to capture their attention and to have them part of the community, and it could be a very passionate person, you're making a mistake. So I agree, forever funding is here to stay.
Everyone I've talked to who've done a Kickstarter says that the Kickstarter itself is an ongoing running ad for their future crowdfunding.
I agree.
So people still show up on the Kickstarter page, transition to your page, and then we'll give you money
It's
after
a portal.
the fact.
It becomes a gateway.
Yep. So that's kind of doing crowdfunding. It's wild and crazy. If anybody has any questions, we'll try to repeat them and answer them. So you got to yell it to where we can hear you. This is horrible. Kind of.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, so leveraging YouTubers and streamers to get the word out.
Well, that's something we didn't cover. We probably should have. Is while you're doing your due diligence, while you're building it up, is you want to reach out and find like-minded communities, people that are interested in the style of game you're interested in, and specifically YouTubers and Twitch. And I got to tell you, I really admire Gordon because he's really on top of the social aspect, and people of our generation, attention, the yellow line is for loading and unloading. The white line, where was I going with this?
I'm not sure about you.
I was going to say that you're really good at understanding the social aspect of this thing, and this is completely a social event. It's Kickstarter social, Indiegogo social, crowdfunding social, building the game with your community social.
The challenge is, for us, for a regular person, it's hard to go out and get press.
It is.
And the alternate press, which is now the streamers and the YouTubers, they are totally democratized. In fact, they are the anti-press at many levels, and they are reaching probably 10 or 12 times more people than the real press.
I know where I was going.
Dramatically more. The challenge with them is you've got to have a playable game. And not every game on Kickstarter is playable and streamable from at the time you do it.
From the jump.
Now, if you could, that's what you want to do. You want to build a game to the point where you can get it streamed because it's 10 times more powerful. I would imagine that if we were at that state with our game, we would have raised about 4 times as much money easily because we would have had more reach. But that means it's got to be really good, and sometimes that takes the money that you need from the Kickstarter to get there.
And that was a point that before my white line, yellow line thing, when I was growing up, television was the medium. You watched Happy Days and Cheers and MASH, all this kind of stuff. And those are the people that I kind of looked at and said, wow, that's cool. Well, I've got 2 children that they're here. They're looking at it here or on their phones or whatever. And this is a much more personal experience. This is inside a person's personal bubble. This is a visceral connection between human beings. It's a much more personal. It's reaching out with a virtual handshake to the audience. And
I actually think the YouTubers and Twitchers, they have a much more personal connection to people, and their credibility is high. Well, certainly more credible than most of the nightly news.
They're high until they get really big and sell out.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because that's happening already. They have been subverted by the system. So you have to watch out for that, because what the audience craves is authenticity. The audience wants to know this person's kind of like me and they're for real. They're not selling me something, they're real. And so that's the challenge for that new medium, is that now that it's working, the guys with money are coming to get them. And they're succeeding in some cases, because it's hard to turn down a big wheelbarrow full of cash from somebody and not sell out. I get it.
Well, that's on Star Citizen. I think that Chris and I went around for a couple years pitching that style of game to other people, mostly Chris, obviously. But it was really rewarding to find out that there were pockets of people all around the world that had the same love for space games that we did. And so, that's really, really rewarding, because you go to some boardrooms and they're like, oh man, space games are dead. Well, I mean, we've been in the industry long enough to where you see things like RPGs are dead, and the Neverwinter Nights comes out, and boom,
more than once.
I know, or you can't play first-person shooter on a console. All these things come up, and they're just not true. And so, games are cyclical. But what happens is publishers are so risk-averse, they're not going to do that. So Kickstarter allows developers like ourselves and others like yourselves to take risks, to take chances. I've been out here walking the show floor, and I've seen all kinds of really unique products. I've seen kind of a Road Rash style game that's coming back. I thought, awesome. There's a whole pocket of games in the 95 to 2000 era gameplay that's just being ignored by game development.
Well, that was a kind of Precambrian explosion of genres at that time, right?
Yeah.
So who else has a question, though? Because we'll talk all day. John Henderson. John Henderson, ladies and gentlemen. Don't clap for him. Okay. Notice they didn't even turn on his mic.
Our top story tonight.
No, don't give him a mic. He's just being obnoxious. Okay, so the question was, our project had a minimum goal of $800,000, and his question was, how much money do we have to spend to raise the $800,000? And the answer is, we spent over $1 million to get ready for the Kickstarter, well over $1 million. And that's because we weren't expecting to get all the money from crowdfunding to do the entire game. So we had raised some money before that. We're going to sell some of the overseas rights to it, which will help fund some of the development of the game. And we may raise some more money on the capital side, like selling part of the business to people to make that money up. And over time, people will crowdfund more of it. So, we're doing an MMO, which is one of the most expensive kinds of games to do. It's kind of crazy to do it crowdfunded, but we thought we could find a way to thread that needle and make it work, mostly because we're doing a relatively cheap MMO in the big scheme of things. But yeah, getting ready was expensive. It took a lot of time. It took a lot of money to get there for our particular kind of game. It doesn't mean that you couldn't put a game together in your basement with a couple of friends over a year and then do a crowdfund, maybe not for $800,000, but for enough money to finish the game and get paid to do it.
Yeah, we're on the opposite end of that. We bootstrapped the whole thing with a team of about 10, and then we have about 10 to 12 volunteers around the world that followed us from Star Citizen that wanted to get in the industry and wanted to help. And one of the things we're trying to do at Descendant Studios is there's talent all over the world, and we really would like to encourage people to join us in the development. And if your stuff is good enough, it'll go in the game. If we can become Descendant Studios University, then as well as make a really good game and continue on that, then we've done our job. So we haven't put near that into our project. I think we worked on it for about 3 or 4 months, all of us not being paid. It's strictly a passion project, and we got to a point where we could get it. It's a much smaller scope. So I think we probably put about $40,000 or $50,000 out of our own pockets into making where we're at now.
Yeah, I didn't really want to talk about the not being paid thing.
Yeah,
that kind of sucks.
Yeah, especially with the wives don't like that much.
No, the wives are definitely not in favor of that.
No.
Pretty much consistently. You can count on that. So yeah, maybe you should do this before you have wives.
Yeah.
All right, other questions? Anything? Yes, sir. Oh, and you can come up next. Oh.
Yeah, okay, it works. You asked if you could explain like the Forever Fund a little bit more, like so what are your steps after the Kickstarter? Like, do a little bit more in depth on that.
Okay. So for like ongoing crowdfunding?
For the Forever, you said for the Forever Fund, so that how do you keep going for that game?
Well, I think you're always trying to gain more audience. And that's what really crowdfunding is about, is gaining the audience, the committed audience. And so you're always prospecting for people to join your community.
Right.
And one way for them to show support is to crowdfund. So you're gathering community whether they're crowdfunding you or not, but some of them want to crowdfund you. So you need to be able to set up to take payments outside of Kickstarter, because it ends in how many days you tell the campaign to be. So you're going to have to take money one way or the other, and you better have a plan for that before you even start.
Yeah, we've got a store sitting there waiting on our site, but we don't want to cannibalize the Kickstarter. So, but a lot of people are screaming at us because they want PayPal. So we're trying to figure out a way we can do that. And PayPal, by the way, is an interesting situation because they will hold a large percentage of that money for a long time. So if you donate, say, $50, they may hold 25 of it. So PayPal is not the best crowdfunding mechanism, but it is something that people are comfortable with. So you have to be ready to address that. So
yeah, we have it up, and it's a real pain in the
Yeah,
ass.
we're gonna. So we're in order to answer your question, we bought an off-the-shelf software called Nexus from Envision, and then we're customizing it for our own site. Now there are a few out there that work. I think what was it called on Star System? We did one, and then we ended up not liking that and going to a customized.
Yeah, you should
one.
definitely talk about that on the live stream,
Yeah,
whoever
definitely.
it is.
Yeah, no, I should
You
mention
should
their name.
defame them immediately.
No, it wasn't that. It was everybody's groovy. Yes, sir.
You're welcome.
How do you balance your vision with the expectations of all your backers?
So the question is, how do you balance your vision with the expectation of all the backers? I would say poorly.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say?
Well, I think that's accurate.
I think you've got a vision. We know what we want to make.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think there's a little bit of wiggle room for being malleable, and changing. Maybe not changing direction, but perhaps adding or doing something better. But if you don't go in with a strong vision to start, your message isn't going to come across in the Kickstarter, and they're not going to back you anyway.
Well, if you don't stick with your vision, you sound like you'll say anything to get the money.
That's true.
And that's just dumb, right? Because you don't want that money.
No.
You don't want those people around yelling at you later.
Oh man, could you imagine?
Right? A dissatisfied customer is going to run off 10 good customers.
Yeah, it'll end the forever funding.
So you're better off, just sticking to your guns, being what you are, but listen to people about whether or not you're on target or not. Because if you're not completely on target, you should say, oh, well, we thought we knew what we were doing, but I've gotten new information. I want to do something a little different because I've been compelled or persuaded by somebody's, giving me information I didn't have before.
I think you stick 90+%, but you have a little wiggle room to adjust as you go.
So, great question. Anybody else?
There's Winglet, my son.
This is like this is a ringer.
Yes, you're still grounded.
Okay.
Well, it depends on the question,
Wait,
maybe.
For what, though?
I don't know. I'll tell them. You really want me to say?
No, my question is for Jordan and my dad, that how do you feel, or what is your thought about the younger generation, as myself and my brother and my friends and peers, about bringing crowdfunding to them? How do they back the project that they want and to love and to, be part of the community when they don't have credit cards or PayPal or something like that?
Well, your job is to, terrorize your parents until they do what you say.
Exactly.
I can say that because you're not my son, you're his son.
Yeah, he does. He's job accomplished.
And I'm so glad my son didn't come with me now, because he would love hearing that. No, I think seriously, you know, the more that you bring this up, the more that we're going to probably get congressional oversight that we don't want.
Yeah.
You know, the government will be here and they'll help us very quickly.
Yeah.
But seriously, you vote with your attention. That's what you really vote with, is your attention. The stuff that you follow, the stuff that you promote, the stuff that you talk about with your friends, we know that that's happening, and we go, okay, we've got something here. Because again, the crowdfunding people are a tiny subset of the potential audience.
That's right.
They are the most rabid fans who are saying, I want to come along with this crazy ride. It might work out well, it might work out terrible, but I love this idea so much that I have to be involved. That's a very small percentage of an audience.
They're the influencers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thank
So
you.
go to your room.
No, go to your
Okay.
room. Wow,
Go to your room.
man, you're talking.
Thanks, Dad.
You're harsh. Harsh. All right, who do we have that is not a relative?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, come on up. Sure.
There we go.
Oh, go ahead.
There you go. The first question is for Eric. How the heck did you get the Descent license? There's got to be a story there.
There it is.
And second one for Gordon. Can you name one thing that you would have done different on the Kickstarter?
Only one?
Yeah, I know.
One.
So I'll take the first one. So, you know, we get this question a lot, and, you know, we try to explain it a few times, but it sort of slides down the page. It's in the FAQ or whatever, but nobody reads the FAQ, but it's important to keep it updated. So we started out after I left Star Citizen. It's gotten to be really big, and Chris is moving most of the stuff to L.A., and so I'm an Austin guy. Love being here, want to build something here, so decided to do that. So we started making a game called Ships That Fight Underground, which was going to be based on, you know, sort of a Descent style game. And for those of you in the audience, that's TFU.
Was that the
right?
marketing title?
Yeah, it was a working title. We said it was working title just for fun. We're actually going to have some gear that says Descent Underground and Ships That Fight Underground on the back. But Interplay approached us in January and asked if we would be interested in making an actual Descent game, and we were like, yeah, are you kidding? That was the game that influenced me so much. I mean, in the 90s, and I think it was 95, we were making Wing Commander 4, and we were supposed to be crunching. We'd call our wives and say, oh my God, honey, we got to work till midnight, and because 6 o'clock you start hearing Descent popping around the cubes in the office, and we would play for hours. It was just an amazing experience, and to think that my kids were growing up without the chance of experiencing that level of gameplay and that much visceral fun, and then being able to take it to the next level with voxel technology and things that are out there, it just needed to be done. And so that's how we got the license. And I know a few other groups had tried to get it before us. I had no idea. And so I guess it was luck, you know, and coming from Star Citizen probably.
Yeah. What's the one thing I wouldn't do?
Yeah.
I would do no early bird specials ever again. Because all I've gotten is grief about it. You know, we said, oh, let's do some. We'll reward the people who've been following us. They'll come in and get some in the first day or two. It'll be awesome. It's been nothing but a pain in the butt. The people who get wound up about $35 difference in price freak me out. I don't want them in my audience. They're weird. You know, there's something seriously wrong with them. So, you know, and it's not that I don't have normally audiences with people with serious stuff wrong with them. They're just not so vocal about it. So there's number one thing I wouldn't do. I'll never do an early bird special again.
We just launched an early bird special yesterday on our website.
Yeah, I know.
Just saying.
I didn't tell him. You know, I wanted to see him suffer.
It's working great. You know, our fans ask for it. So
It's not over yet.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair
When
enough.
they're gone. When they're gone,
Hey, by the way,
talk to me
that
about
right
it.
there says there's more than one way of doing it. Too.
Yeah, yeah.
And your crowds are different.
Exactly. Any other
Yeah,
questions?
sure.
Oh, there you go. You can just tell us. We'll repeat it. Unless she gets it to him.
Thank you. Oh, that's why I hear my own. Oh. Hearing my own voice is weird. Sorry. So with crowdfunding, obviously you're on a really tight budget because, you know, you only have so much money that you get out of the crowdfunding. So, as a 'cause I graduate from college in May, and I intend to jump into the gaming industry. What are you guys' opinion on using
Okay.
unproven talent, such as theoretically myself, when you know you want people who are going to be super efficient because you get the most value out of hiring them, if that makes sense.
I'm not sure what you asked.
Yeah.
Okay, so like,
are you more, as people doing crowdfunding and having that sort of tighter budget,
Is there
are you
room for
more
people
or
that-
less inclined to use unproven talent because of that?
So it depends.
This is a philosophy. This is probably a philosophical
No.
discussion.
Well, it depends on how you're running your production,
Yeah.
right? So Eric's doing something completely different than I am.
Right.
So with what I'm doing, I can't afford, more than about 5 or 10% bad hires. Right? That'll blow my budget.
Right.
So bringing in somebody who drops the ball is more expensive than the work they did. It's also the time I lost. It's just horrible, right? When you're on a really tight budget, everything has to work right. And he has a better idea for this.
I don't know what's better. It's just different.
So we like to open it up to the community to prove yourselves on the forums, to be part of the process. And if you're good enough, you'll be able to get hired through there. We'll drag you through the process. We have a certain amount of bandwidth that is dedicated every day to being on the forums, to helping people to get to where they need to be. But frankly, there's going to be some people that just aren't good enough, that just aren't ready to do that. And that's okay. I found that as long as you're honest about things and you say, look, you've got a little way to go, it's all right. That being said, we've probably got 3 or 4 people from our audience already that are really, really good and have been trying to get in the industry, and for whatever reason, they've just not been able to, and they're on board now. So, and you got to be willing sometimes to work for free for a bit, and that's just, and that may not be what your mom or dad wants to hear after this big money for college, but our industry's tough to get into.
Yeah. It's very Darwinian. I think this gentleman, were you?
I was just stretching, but I do have a.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Jesus. Okay, sorry about that. How important would you say is the direct interaction of live streaming throughout the funding, and how much of that is too much? Like,
How much is? I'm sorry, I missed it.
How much live streaming? is too much?
How much live streaming should you do in this kind of a campaign, and is there a point at which you're doing too much?
Yeah,
Are you guys doing any live streaming?
Nope.
So
that's, I guess, directed at me. So that's a great question, because honestly, overexposure can hurt you as much as underexposure. So right now in our campaign, we're doing 1 live stream a week. It's Thursdays at 10 a.m. And this is a good example. As anybody that's ever seen my show on YouTube, Wingman's Hangar, I can be a little bit nutty, a little, yeah, I know, hard to believe. But at the same time, so we talk about it like we did. So we did a live stream this week, and we wanted to call it "What the Fact," and which I thought was funny. And Mike Moreland talked me off the ledge and said we need to play this serious, and that's what's good about being a good team. And so we think right now once a week, where we take some calls, answer some questions, go on chat roll, and the rest of us dedicated to showing off the art and the progress of where we're at and what we're doing. And there's times to be silly, and there's times to be serious. And I can't stop completely being silly, but I can be serious most of the time, sort of.
Yeah.
Ish.
We have time for one question, I think.
So this was kind of covered already a little bit by an earlier question, but
Simon, hold the mic up, bud.
This good?
Perfect.
Cool. Okay, awesome. So despite the challenges of crowdfunding, and despite sometimes the worries it can bring as you watch the ticker go up and go towards 100%, what you guys are doing, especially where you're at, where you've pretty much completed or are very close to completion, and what you've seen with Star Citizen, that's almost like living the dream. But you didn't get there just, out of nowhere. You built up for yourself what you've done. So for those who would be interested in someday pursuing the paths that you guys have trodden, what would you do to build up and prepare for that?
Just don't do it. No, wait.
Yeah.
First. Why would I wish that on anybody I like?
Know. I can talk. This is the 3rd one I've done. Star Citizen obviously has been huge, and that was a team of, obviously Chris Roberts, Sandy Gardner, David Swafford, Ben Lesnick. These are all key components that were there with us throughout the campaign. Dave Haddock,
and that was super successful. But they're not all successful. I did Conquest Frontier Wars. You can look it up on Kickstarter. It's a really funny video and a really lousy campaign, and so we ended up dropping it. And that was before Star Citizen, and we learned a lot from that, what to do and what not to do. Which every time we do this, I think you learn something, and you know it's shocking what you don't know. So,
but the core of your question is, if you want to make games, like make games. Don't wait for somebody to give you permission. Don't wait for it to work economically.
That's right.
Don't just make games.
Yeah, you can do that with
because that's
friends.
how you learn how to make games.
Yep.
You learn how to make games by making games. There's really no other way in the end. You can learn a lot of skills that you can use to make games, but you only learn about making games by making games.
Right.
Period.
And then when you're playing them, try to walk out, take a step outside what you're playing, and go, why is this fun? Why am I enjoying this? And then because you'll kind of step away from just the actual enjoyment and go, wow, that's fun. And then you go, why is that fun? I did this, click this, that, and other, and that'll help teach you as well along the way. But he's right, make games, just make them.
We're 2 minutes over. Thank you all for coming.
Yes.
I have cards about Crowfall up here if you want them.
I don't.
Our email addresses are on the thing so you can get us.
Just
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.